Hello everyone and welcome back for some more Drag Race gossip, secrets and drama. So as has become tradition on my channel, I've created a compilation of the best backstage secrets that were spilled from each of my Roscoe's recaps for All Stars 8. How I've done it is that I've selected the top 2 moments from each Roscoe's recap based on the analytics on YouTube that tell me when there were spikes in the views during the video. So here are 22 top backstage secrets from All Stars 8 that were spilled at Roscoe's. Let me know in the comments if you were surprised by any of these top moments. And also let me know what your top moment was from my Roscoe's recap this season. And with that, let's get started. Enjoy! And Naysha was eliminated in the second episode of All Stars 8 and didn't seem to be very happy about her edit. In the first of these clips from the viewing party, Naysha spilled some tea about her confessionals, and Naysha said that she thought that James Mansfield should have been in the bottom. Naysha explained that when the queens are filming their confessionals, the producers ask you things like, how do you think this person did, or how did this person do? And Naysha said, quote, I'm going to tell you one thing that I'm mother effing honest. Naysha explained that she comes from a place of love and she's always going to give you her honest opinion about things. And Naysha said, quote, I'll tell you this, in every single one of my confessionals, they're like, how do you think this person did? It don't matter, James was the worst one. Naysha then said the reason why she said that is because, quote, you're not going to change the narrative on me. I saw what I saw, and I'm going to talk about what I saw, but what I saw doesn't match the narrative, which means they can't feature me. And Naysha then explained that because of the NDA, she has to be careful about what she says, but she said that, quote, my personal opinion, allegedly, I don't think they showed me because my opinions of certain people didn't align with the narrative that this mother effing show is trying to do. And it looks like fellow All Stars 8 contestant Heidi in Closet addressed this, and Heidi said in a now deleted tweet, no, James deserved her top placement the second week and Naysha shouldn't feel that way about her since she was the one mostly helping her. But anywho, if we were talking about the first episode, I would agree though. So we'll have to wait and see if there are any more developments that come out about this over the course of the competition. In the next clip, the queens were talking about the acting challenge in the second episode, which as I explained earlier was in the style of Saturday Night Live and everything was filmed in one take. However, Naysha implied as though some of the queens may have filmed their parts more than once. In the clip, host Patty Davis asked the queens how many times they filmed it, and all the queens said that they filmed it just one time. Naysha then said that they did do a run-through that wasn't taped, so they could get an idea of the teleprompter and where to look at the camera, and Naysha then said, quote, but it really was one take, except for some people. And when Naysha said that, people in the crowd started laughing, and Alexis Michelle, who was sat next to Naysha, laughed and put her arm on Naysha. The crowd then started chanting, say their names, several times. And Naysha smiled and eventually said, Candy Muse, and people in the audience started laughing. But Naysha laughed and said, quote, hold on, listen, we were backstage, right, and the rule was one mother effin' take, and we were in the back where they usually hide for the runway, and she did her part on the main stage. And Naysha then said she, and she was referring to Candy Muse because Candy was the narrator of the challenge and she did the opening monologue on the main stage, unlike the other contestants who filmed their parts on separate stages. Naysha then said, quote, and she started, and halfway through the monologue, they're like, oh wait, Candy, stop, let's try that again, etc, etc, and I thought it was just one take. But Naysha then clarified that regardless of how many times they did it, Candy is a, quote, sickening mother effer, and she had it right the first time. So I'm not trying to say like, oh, that B had an advantage, she did have more takes, however, the B is sickening, she turned it. So it sounds like Candy, for some reason, was asked to start her monologue again, but it's not clear why. However, from what Naysha said, it wasn't Candy's fault, and production for some reason asked her to do it again. So we'll have to wait and see if any more details emerge about why production asked Candy to do it again. And I'd just like to take a moment to say thank you to the sponsor of today's video, Dinnerly. Dinnerly is an affordable meal delivery service that makes it quick and easy to create tasty meals at affordable prices. All you have to do is choose from over 100 yummy recipes which cater to a wide variety of dietary requirements, select your delivery date, and Dinnerly will provide all the ingredients for you in an insulated box so you can whip up delicious meals in mere moments. And what's more, if you use my code DRAGT190, you'll get up to 60% off your first box plus free shipping. You can also save up to $190 off your first 8 boxes, which works out to just $1.99 per portion for these incredibly tasty meals. Click the link in the description or in the pinned comment to get your discount today. Thanks again to Dinnerly for sponsoring this video. And the guests were asked whether they would ever go back for an All-Stars. And Crystal Versace, who won season 3 of Drag Race UK, said that she would go back eventually, and Crystal then said, quote, "I think it would be cute because if we're going to say all tea, I don't think I had much competition on my show, so I would like to go up against some real effing drag." And a lot of people in the audience gasped, and some people started clapping when Crystal said that. Crystal then pointed at Tayce and said, quote, "If I was on your season, it would make sense, but on my season, it was just me and there was a lot of like, no, it's not shade, well, it probably is, but like, I'm just being honest." And then everyone started laughing and clapping. They then moved on and started talking about drag queens hooking up with other drag queens, and host Caramel said that Tayce had first-hand experience of this and asked her to explain it. Just to explain, Tayce competed on season 2 of Drag Race UK, and on the season, one of the big storylines was that Tayce had apparently hooked up with her fellow season 2 sister, Ahura, and it became a bit of a joke throughout the season, but they never really said what actually happened between them. Anyway, when Caramel asked Tayce that, everyone started clapping and Tayce said, quote, whoa, stop the press, let me clear this up right now." Tayce then explained that she and Ahura made out once in a club when they first met, and Tayce then said that Ahura kept going on with this storyline that the two of them had slept with each other, but they didn't. Cheryl Hole then joked and said, quote, "She needed a storyline, didn't she?" And Blue said that when the producers ask you to talk about things, you always think, quote, "Oh no, it's my time." And Blue implied as though that usually means that you're going home that week. Tayce agreed and said that if you watch Drag Race a lot, you notice that the person who gets a moment at the beginning of the episode tends to be the person who goes home. Crystal then said that on her season, the exact same thing happened with Anubis, who was eliminated in episode 1. And Crystal said that in the workroom, they went to Anubis and asked her to talk about her father who had passed away, and then they sent her home that episode. Naysha then said that on All Stars 8, in the first episode, she and Monica Beverly Hills were sitting next to each other in the workroom, and Naysha said that a producer came up to them and said, quote, "I need you to talk right now, whatever you want, I just need you guys to get more camera time." And apparently Naysha said to the producer, quote, "There's still 11 episodes, what the F is the problem?" And apparently Monica and Naysha then looked at each other and said that it's not looking good, and they implied as though that they knew that Monica was likely going home that week. They then talked about James Mansfield's look for this week, which James said was inspired by her Mexican and indigenous culture. And host Caramel said, quote, "Me and Batty just found out that James is indigenous in this moment right here. We knew that they were Mexican, but we didn't know they were indigenous. But, beautiful gowns." And everyone started laughing. Just to explain that in case you don't know, this is a reference to a comment that legendary singer Aretha Franklin once made in an interview. In the interview, Aretha was asked her opinion on lots of other singers, such as Adele and Whitney Houston, and Aretha said quite nice things about each of them. And when Aretha was asked about Taylor Swift, Aretha just said, quote, "Gowns, beautiful gowns." And many people took this to be a slightly shady comment by Aretha because she made comments on Taylor's outfits rather than her vocal abilities. And since then, this expression of gowns, beautiful gowns, has become a joke and is a way to throw some shade at someone. So it's not clear if Caramel meant that here exactly, but several people gasped and laughed when Caramel said that. Mrs. Kasha Davis then said it was, quote, something different for her. Naysha then said that this was a very smart thing for James to do because, quote, as a judge, they will never talk negatively about someone's culture. And some people in the audience groaned and slightly booed. And Naysha said, quote, seriously, that's what you do. And she said that RuPaul and the other judges are not going to say anything bad about an outfit that's to do with someone's culture, so it's a smart move. But Naysha said that James's proportions were good and her ass looked great. And Naysha said that apparently Jimbo takes the deliberation part very seriously because on UK vs. The World, Jimbo was eliminated by Pangina in a similar circumstance. And Naysha spilled some backstage tea about a story Jimbo had told her, and apparently when Jimbo was filming UK vs. The World, after she was eliminated, the producers told her that she had to come back to film her confessionals. But Jimbo apparently said no and locked herself in her hotel room, and Naysha said that the producers got, quote, peed at her and reminded her that she had a contract and kind of threatened her. And apparently Jimbo then just said, quote, I'm just kidding, let me get ready, and then she went and filmed the rest of the footage that the producers needed. Host Naysha Lopez, who also competed on All Stars 8, then said that at the beginning of the episode, they were already, quote, effing with Heidi because they asked her how she felt about not winning anything. And Naysha asked Lucy if she thought that the show, quote, effed with her during season 15 because Lucy's edit always showed her being frustrated. Lucy said, quote, I think I did realise they were effing with me, but I just realised a bit too late. And Lucy went on to explain that every day, the producers kept asking Lucy to list all of her mini and maxi challenge wins, and they would then use that in the edit, which explains why Lucy mentioned it so many times during season 15. They then got to the moment in the episode where Heidi in Closet decided to leave the competition and she walked out. Just in case you haven't seen the episode, in the workroom, Kahana confronted Heidi and said that she felt like Heidi threw her under the bus because Heidi kept making jokes during the Snatch game about Kahana's jokes not landing. And Heidi apologised and said she didn't mean for it to come across that way. And then Candy Muse confronted Heidi, and Candy said that Heidi had lied to Jimbo and told Jimbo that Candy had said that she would eliminate Jimbo. Heidi then said that that was true and said that Alexis was there and could confirm. And Alexis then nodded her head and agreed that Candy had said that she would eliminate Jimbo. But then when Candy confronted Alexis, Alexis changed what she said and then she said that Candy didn't exactly say that. So then it made it look like Heidi was lying and Jimbo didn't know who to believe. And Heidi said she didn't like where this was going and she felt alone and then she left the competition. Anyway, back to Roscoe's, and Naysha implied that she had spoken to the queens about what happened, but said that this was just her opinion. And Naysha said she thinks that perhaps it's the case that one queen said something to another queen and then another queen, and things got misconstrued as the information got passed between the queens. Heidi hasn't publicly addressed this as of yet, but she did post on her social media that she would be talking about it in her Patreon exclusive podcast. And apparently in the podcast, Heidi said that one of the reasons she left is because she was upset that the alliance between her, Candy and Jimbo had broken down and that her sisters didn't believe her. But Heidi also said that there were a lot of personal things going on outside of the show that also weighed on her, which is another reason why she decided to leave. But Heidi said that all the queens are on good terms. And this was backed up by Kahana, who tweeted saying that she and Heidi are good and that Heidi had already decided to leave the competition before that episode. Alexis Michelle and Jimbo also talked about this moment more during a recent Instagram live. Alexis said that off camera, Jimbo told Alexis that apparently Heidi had gone to Jimbo and said that Candy was coming for Jimbo. Jimbo then brought up the moment where Alexis at first agreed with what Heidi was saying about Candy, but then as soon as Candy confronted Alexis, Alexis changed what she said. Alexis then said that although she loves Candy, she was, quote, scared of her, which is why she changed what she said. Alexis and Jimbo also said that it wasn't the first time that Heidi had talked about leaving the competition. And Jimbo said that the argument was, quote, the straw that broke the camel's back, and there were so many other people and factors that were involved in Heidi's decision to leave. Anyway, back to Roscoe's, and they all said that they supported Heidi's decision to leave and protect her mental health. And Naysha said that, quote, nothing is worth your happiness, so she applauds Heidi's decision for removing herself from a situation that was messing with her head. Naysha also said that even in the first episode, when the queens had to pick the lipstick of the bottom two queens to decide who was going home, apparently the queens are all separated so they can't discuss who they're going to vote for. And apparently when Heidi came out of the room after voting, it was really draining her, and apparently she was, quote, bawling, crying, and said, quote, I hate this, I didn't think we were going to have to do this, because they had just had All Stars 7 when no one got eliminated. So it seems like this may have taken a toll on Heidi because she wasn't expecting to have to eliminate her sisters, and Naysha said that Heidi was very upset from the beginning of the season. And Naysha also added that she had spoken to Heidi since then, and Heidi said that although it took her a while to get there, she's now in a great place and she doesn't regret leaving. Anyway, Naysha asked Kahana how many times they performed the Rusical, and Kahana said 3 times because they had to get different camera angles and things like that. Naysha said that everyone did really well and no one did badly, so if you're in the bottom that week, you're probably in the bottom by default. Host Batty Davis said that she felt that some parts in the Rusical were less challenging than others. Host Caramel said that she was, quote, whelmed by Jimbo. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't like Candy, Lala and Alexis. Kahana then said she felt that there were some roles that were catered to certain queens, depending on if they're a dancer or not, and Kahana said that she had a hard role. Naysha then said that this is where she feels the show, quote, makes a mistake, and she said that everyone needs to be held to the same standard. And Naysha said, quote, if you expect a 5, 6, 7, 8 from Kahana, you should expect it from Jimbo. If she doesn't do it, she needs to pay the consequences. And Naysha made the point that in the Snatch Game, you're expected to be funny like Jimbo was, and Kahana was held to the same standard, so it's only fair that you do the same for a performance challenge as well. And Naysha said, quote, the standard kind of changes and shifts for certain people, and that's not the mother effing tea. And Kahana agreed with Naysha that everything should be held to the same standard. And Naysha also said, quote, you can definitely see Candy came out, there's dancers, Jessica came out, there's dancers, Jimbo came out, there's a wheelchair. And some people in the audience moaned, but some people seemed to agree with what Naysha was saying. They then talked more about James's elimination, and Naysha asked Kahana how she felt, and Kahana said, quote, we all knew what was going down, no tea, it was not a shock to anybody, it wasn't even track record, it was B, Kahana didn't deserve to be in the bottom, she slayed, we're going to save her. They then moved on to Untucked, and they said that James was pleading her case to Candy, but they all thought that Candy had already made up her mind, and Kahana agreed. Kahana then said she felt that from everybody, and she implied as though the other queens subtly implied as though they were going to vote for James because Kahana didn't deserve to be in the bottom. And Kahana added that, quote, I don't think it was anything to do with James being a threat. As talented as she is, I don't think that was going through anybody's mind. Batty Davis asked whether Heidi in Closet might have stayed in the competition if RuPaul had done something like that on the episode when Heidi left. Brooklyn said that Heidi probably would have stayed if RuPaul had done that, and Brooklyn also said that she loves when RuPaul, quote, pops off. And Brooklyn thought what RuPaul said was really beautiful and empowering, and you don't want to throw away a big opportunity just because you're having a bad day. Caramel asked Brooklyn if she had ever had a moment like that with RuPaul when Brooklyn was preparing to be a judge on Canada's Drag Race. And Brooklyn said that she never spoke to RuPaul about it. However, when Brooklyn came to be a lip-sync assassin on All Stars 6, RuPaul said that Brooklyn was doing a really good job on Canada's Drag Race, but that moment didn't make it to the air. They then talked about Heidi in Closet leaving All Stars 8 a few episodes ago, and Caramel asked if Brooklyn would have done the same thing, or would she have stuck it out and decided to stay in the competition. Brooklyn said that, quote, it's very intense and they keep pushing you, and the longer you're, quote, running on empty, the harder it gets. But Brooklyn said she probably would think about it, but she wouldn't act on it, but then Brooklyn said, quote, I did actually think about it. Brooklyn was asked what moment that was, and Brooklyn said that it was the finale episode, so it's assumed that she was referring to the finale of season 11. Brooklyn explained and said, quote, we were on stage getting critiques and, in my mind, I thought,
What if I just walked off right now? I was just so tired and exhausted. It had been really fun, but by the time it got to that point, I didn't know if I had anything left. But then Brooklyn said she's thankful that she did not do that and that she pushed through. The episode then ended, and Caramel asked BB and Brooklyn what has changed on Drag Race since their seasons, or what changes would they like to see in the future. BB said that she would like to see other Drag Race queens appear as guest judges, a bit like on Canada's Drag Race, because they know what it's like to be on the show. And Brooklyn agreed and said she also thought it would be great to have some drag legends who have not been on Drag Race, such as Sherry Vine, Jackie Beat and Hot Chocolate. And it would be great to have a season with just those sorts of queens on Drag Race because they don't care about what they say, and in dressing rooms they're always reading each other for filth, and it would make really good TV if you could get that sort of energy on camera. They then mentioned that Chanel had been a lip-sync assassin in episode 4, and she lip-synced against Jimbo and won, and she had to reveal that the queens had chosen for Darien Lake to go home. And Heidi spilled some backstage tea about this moment and said that when Chanel won the lip sync, RuPaul is sitting about 30 feet away from the stage. And Chanel then said that the queens have chosen to eliminate, and then she pulled out the lipstick, but she didn't actually say the name out loud. And apparently, without missing a beat, RuPaul acted shocked as usual. And Heidi joked that there's no way that RuPaul could have read the name on the lipstick from that far away, and RuPaul was, quote, acting her ass off. Heidi also said the producers had to ask Chanel to pull the lipstick out again, but this time she needed to say the actual name out loud. But Heidi said that the queens are closer to the stage than RuPaul is, so the queens could probably see the name on the lipstick. So Darien must have known that she was going to be eliminated already, and what we saw in the episode wasn't actually her genuine reaction, because she had already seen her name on the lipstick from the first time that Chanel showed the lipstick. And Heidi said that RuPaul was clearly acting her surprise. They then moved on to the moment when Alexis Michelle, who had won the challenge, had to pick who to send home out of LaLa Ri and Candy Muse, and Alexis chose LaLa Ri to go home. And everyone was shocked because Lala had saved Alexis the week before, and Alexis said that she wouldn't forget that, and they questioned why Alexis went back on what she said. Heidi said that she had had conversations with both Alexis and Lala, and she knew what was, quote, the straw that broke the camel's back. And Heidi didn't want to spill it in case they talked about it in Untucked, but Heidi said that there was a connection between Alexis and Candy, which is probably the reason why Alexis chose to save Candy. Heidi said that apparently Alexis wanted to, quote, change the perception of herself going into All Stars, but according to Heidi, Alexis had 2 good opportunities to show that, but Heidi said, quote, she made the absolute worst decision in both cases. And Heidi said that in her opinion, Alexis made the wrong choice by eliminating Lala, even though she had previously said that she would keep Lala. And just for anyone that doesn't know, Alexis tweeted after the episode saying, quote, it was an impossible choice, a lose-lose situation, 2 incredible queens who I admire and respect. I made a choice. After sleeping on it, I wished I could have done differently. I'm sorry for disappointing you. People make mistakes. I own this one. No edit, just me. And Caramel brought up this tweet and the audience groaned, and Heidi said, quote, don't backpedal, stand by it. And they mentioned that Alexis would be at Roscoe's next week, so they could ask her about it then. Batty Davis then said that Alexis was trying to give herself the upper hand by eliminating Lala, but that decision, quote, smacked her in the ass. And Heidi said that if Alexis had sent Candy home instead, the fans would probably be cheering for Alexis and it would have redeemed her. And Heidi also brought up the moment during the workroom confrontation in episode 5 when Heidi said Candy had said that she would eliminate Jimbo, and Heidi brought Alexis into the conversation to confirm what Heidi was saying. And at first, Alexis confirmed what Heidi said, but then Alexis seemed to change her mind. And Heidi said that if Alexis had just picked a side during the argument, it would have come off better than the back and forth that Alexis did. Heidi also said that Alexis wanted to be in an alliance with Heidi, Candy and Jimbo, and apparently Alexis wrote a note to all of them at the beginning of the season saying that they should be in an alliance. And it's assumed that Heidi was inferring that that's the reason why Alexis decided to keep Candy in the competition instead of Lala. Naysha then asked Lala if she knew she was going home that episode or whether she thought that she had a chance to stay. Lala said, quote, "I wasn't surprised, I had felt like it was my time." Lala said that she knew that the group would vote for Lala to go instead of Candy because Candy was more popular than Lala. And Lala also did have a feeling that Alexis had pulled her lipstick. But Lala disagreed with what Naysha had said about production rigging the outcome because Lala said that when she got eliminated, everyone on the production team came out and gave Lala a standing ovation. And they said that they were all, quote, shocked that Lala was leaving, and Lala implied as though her elimination was not part of production's plan. Host Caramel then said that Lala had joked that she would have eliminated Alexis 2 episodes ago instead of keeping her. Lala laughed and said it was just a joke and she still would have kept Alexis because, quote, "I'm all about competition, I want to beat the best of the best." Lala then joked that Kahana Montrese had been in the bottom about 50 times by that episode and said, quote, "I love my sister, but damn girl, let's go. Pack up your bleep bee," and everyone in the audience laughed. Alexis then referred back to what Naysha had said about production rigging the outcome, and Alexis said that there was, quote, "some truth to that," but Alexis said that they had kept Kahana around for a long time and implied as though that went against what production wanted. Naysha then brought up a moment from a few episodes ago when Heidi said that Candy had said that she would send home Jimbo, and then Heidi brought Alexis into the conversation, and Alexis at first said that Candy did say that, but then seemed to change her mind, and Alexis said that Candy did not say that. And Naysha asked Alexis what really happened. And Alexis said, quote, "I'm glad you're asking me about this because this is one I'm ready to spill the full tea on." Alexis explained that although it did look like she was backpedaling in the episode, there was some, quote, "genuine confusion in Alexis's head." Alexis said that when Heidi asked her if she remembered Candy saying that about Jimbo, Alexis genuinely didn't remember. But since then, Heidi has, quote, refreshed Alexis's memory of when the conversation happened. Apparently, there was a queen tent outside the workroom where production would put the queens when production needed to do other things. Alexis explained that according to Heidi, Alexis was one day at the front of the tent and the other queens were at the back of the tent, which was a few feet away. And Heidi said that Alexis must have heard what Candy was saying, and Alexis said it was, quote, very possible, but she just couldn't remember. However, Alexis said what she does remember is that one day, Heidi was having a moment to herself and Jimbo went to go and check on Heidi. And then after that, Jimbo went to Alexis and said, quote, "I feel really weird." Heidi was upset and she said that Candy said that if I, referring to Jimbo, land in the bottom, I'm going to be out, or that Jimbo is coming for me. And Jimbo asked Alexis if Alexis had heard Candy say that. And Alexis didn't remember the conversation that had happened in the Queen tent, so she said to Jimbo that she hadn't heard Candy say anything like that. But apparently what Alexis did say was, quote, "but I wouldn't be surprised if Candy did say something like that." And Alexis said that it's no shade to Candy, but Candy is a fierce competitor and she is ready to play a tougher game than Alexis. And Alexis said she realises that she's, quote, too soft for reality television. But Alexis summarised and said that the full tea was that she didn't remember hearing Candy say that about Jimbo, but she did remember the conversation that she had with Jimbo. And when it all came up in the workroom, it did not, quote, feel like it was my place to bring up an off-camera private conversation that Alexis had had with Jimbo, which is why Alexis didn't want to talk about it. And that's also why it seemed like Alexis was backpedaling in the episode. Jessica then said that Jimbo had admitted that she had stopped drinking and partying because people had told Jimbo that she was looking old. And apparently those comments really got to Jimbo, and Jimbo felt like she needed to stop partying because it was aging her. And Naysha made the point that it's never okay to tell the queens they look old or to insult the queens because it can really mess with the queens' heads. And Priyanka agreed and said that she also had stopped drinking because she found that when she was hungover, the negative comments online would get to her more and affected her badly because she was hungover. Naysha then told a funny story involving Jessica and drinking and said that when they shot the promos for All Stars 8, all the queens were doing the photo shoots at different times. And apparently Jessica was really nervous because she doesn't like photo shoots, and Naysha and a few of the other queens had already finished their photo shoots and they were drinking. And Jessica then asked Naysha to get her some shots to try and make Jessica feel more relaxed. And so apparently Jessica drank quite a bit, and Naysha joked that, quote, Jessica was definitely drunk when she was doing her promo shoot. Jessica then joked that when the promos came out, Jessica asked why there was a, quote, ugly Jessica Wilde signature on the photo, and she asked who put that there. And apparently Jessica had forgotten that she was the one that did the signature, but because she was so drunk when she did it, she just scribbled it down and it looked really bad. Naysha also said that she actually wrote the signature for 3 of the other queens because they didn't like their own handwriting, but Naysha didn't say who the 3 queens were. They then talked more about the makeover challenge this week, and Caramel asked how long the queens had to get ready. Jessica said that once they had done the makeover for their partners, they then had only an hour and 20 minutes to get themselves ready, which wasn't enough time. And Jessica said that the queens were, quote, angry about that. Jessica also spilled some backstage tea and said that her makeover partner had really small feet and none of the shoes in the workroom fit her. And Candy's partner was also struggling to walk in the heels that were provided. So apparently Jessica made the production staff go and find different shoes for the queens because it was dangerous for the queens to walk in shoes they didn't feel comfortable in and they might, quote, break a leg. And Jessica said that she went to the producers and said, quote, can you help me please? I need her size for her to walk. I don't give an F if you're going to send me home, but I want her to feel good, and they helped us. Caramel then brought up that Jimbo had got her first lip sync win last week when she lip synced against Silky Nutmeg Ganache, and everyone cheered for Jimbo. Jimbo then said that it was really cool because, quote, Silky had been quite upset with me on Twitter about what I had decided not to say about Pangina. And just in case you don't know, I believe what Jimbo is referring to is during UK vs the World, Pangina sent Jimbo home in the 3rd episode, which was quite a shock, and Jimbo was really upset about her elimination. And then, at the reunion for UK vs the World, Jimbo confronted Pangina and said a sort of sarcastic dig to Pangina and said, quote, I laid in bed and I was like, I'm gonna just talk about how bleep that stupid outfit was with her damn ponytails and all those stupid ties. Or I'm gonna talk about how bleep she looked in that dumb polka dot look. Or I'm going to talk about what a stupid bee she is. But then Ru said, release to the universe, and that's what I've done, so I'm not going to say those things. And obviously the joke was that Jimbo did say all of those things, and it was kind of a joke, but also kind of shady. And at the time, Silky had tweeted after the episode, criticising Jimbo and said, Pangina should have slapped the bleep out of that girl. How can you call someone a stupid bleep? Read her garments like she wasn't killing. You gave up and got eliminated. Don't come for my black ass for taking up for a POC. Hashtag drag race. And so it seemed like Silky was not happy with Jimbo for those comments that Jimbo had made about Pangina. Anyway, back to Roscoe's, and Jimbo said that Silky was very upset with her, and Jimbo had not spoken to Silky since then, apart from when she wrote to Silky saying she was sorry, and that they were sisters and they'll get over it when they're on the road together. And so when Jimbo saw that the lip sync assassin was Silky, she was a bit gagged. But they decided to dance together, and Jimbo said it was a, quote, silent agreement, and I felt it in that moment, and we just decided to have fun together, and it felt really magical. Caramel then said, quote, I find that suspicious. Kahana is involved with another argument. She loves that this season, and people in the audience gasped and laughed. And Caramel then brought up the moment in episode 5 where Kahana confronted Heidi about the Snatch game, and then Heidi brought Candy and Alexis into the conversation. And Heidi claimed that Candy had said she was coming for Jimbo and wanted to send her home. And Caramel asked Candy and Jimbo what that situation was like in the room. Candy said that the whole situation went on for about an hour and a half, even though it was only shown for a few minutes, and you can tell that because the queens had no makeup on at the beginning, and by the end they all had a full face on. Candy then went on and said that she has stayed quiet all season about this situation, and Candy then said that she was going to spill the real tea on this. Candy then said, quote, "So we were bored. I was bored on set." And apparently Candy went to Jimbo one day and said that because Candy was bored, she was going to tell the other girls that Jimbo is competition and imply as though they should send her home. And Jimbo told Candy not to say that to the girls because they might actually do it, but Candy said she was still going to say it. And then one day when the queens were in the van, Candy jokingly said, quote, "Jimbo is big competition, get rid of her." Candy said that everyone in the van all nodded their heads and agreed with what Candy was saying, apart from maybe Heidi, who was more surprised. And so that's why Candy found it, quote, interesting that when everyone was calling Candy out, none of them admitted that they had actually agreed with what Candy had said. But also, the real reason why Candy denied what Heidi was saying during the confrontation is because they were accusing Candy of saying that she was, quote, gunning for Jimbo. But Candy didn't actually say that and just said that Jimbo was competition and that they should vote her out. Candy also said, quote, "If I was gunning for Jimbo, I could have sent her home last week." Candy also said, quote, "Once Heidi left, in the van ride home that night, there was a queen." And Candy paused and it looked like she wasn't going to say the Queen's name, but then she said, quote, "James Mansfield," and the audience gasped and started laughing. And apparently in the van, James said, quote, "I thought sending Jimbo home was like Fight Club. We all know it, but we just weren't going to say it." And that's why Candy was so confused that the queens all pretended like they knew nothing about the situation. Even Alexis, who backtracked during the confrontation, even though Alexis was in the van when Candy said that. Candy did clarify that Heidi has confirmed that she did not quit the season due to this confrontation, and that Heidi had, quote, checked out long before that. Candy also said that the queens were bored with the season and that's why she decided to create this conversation, and that every time the queens had an opportunity to make something interesting, it turned into a, quote, sob story. And Candy implied as though it got to the point when the queens were told to cut out the sob stories, and Candy said, quote, "Let's turn bleep up in here because clearly no one else is going to do it." Candy then went on to say that the queens that she would have kikied with and stirred stuff up with, such as Naysha and Monica, had already been eliminated. And she also said that Jimbo was, quote, compared to her other seasons, was playing nice. Alexis was crying every other weekend. Kasha and Darian were doing nothing. At the end of the day, I was bored, and I told Jimbo that is what I was going to do. Jimbo then said that that's not exactly how it happened, and what actually happened was that Jimbo had asked Candy not to tell people that Jimbo was competition because people might actually eliminate her. And then later, Jimbo spoke to Heidi after they had a bit of a disagreement in Untucked about the fruity patootie look. And apparently Heidi said to Jimbo that they were cool, but Jimbo needed to check in with Candy. And so when Jimbo spoke to Candy, Jimbo said that Heidi had said that Candy was going to eliminate Jimbo, and Candy totally denied saying that. And Candy said, quote, "Those specific words I never said. If you would have sat there and said, 'Candy, you said Jimbo's competition,' I would have said, 'Oh yeah,' but I never said I was gunning for her. Those words did not leave my mouth." And Candy said that this topic did come up in this week's episode when the queens were sat on the couch, although it was all cut from the episode. And Candy also said that if she wanted Jimbo gone, she could have just convinced people to do that, and she wanted to make good TV. Candy also said that after filming, while they were on tour in the UK, Candy did talk to Heidi about the situation, and Heidi accused Candy of lying, and they hashed it all out and they got over it. Candy also made the point that, quote, "If you watch back seasons 2, 3, 4 and 5 of Drag Race, the girls were fighting and making iconic television. Tell me something iconic that happened on seasons 15, 14, 13, 12, 11. Nothing. Are we not making TV? Is that what we are? Is that what we represent?" And Candy said she needs to go on Big Brother or a show like that. Anyway, they then moved on and started talking about the top two, which are Jimbo and Candy Muse. And Mo said, quote, "I just want to know why they brought an international B to an American season. That's my only question." And some people gasped in the audience. And Mo continued and said, quote, "Only because Canada versus the world was just before this one. Just saying. she got chopped on my last one, referring to UK versus the world, and then she's here. The same winning talent that she did got her certified in the top. And it's assumed Mo was referring to Jimbo's ghost character, which she did for her talent show on UK versus the world, and then Jimbo wore it again in the lip sync that she won against Silky Nutmeg Ganache. But Mo added that Jimbo, quote, did it right, and said that Jimbo spent a lot of money on the season, and the designer she used charges a minimum of, quote, 6 racks per outfit, which means $6,000. And Naysha added that on set, she asked Jimbo about one of her outfits, but she didn't specify which one, and Jimbo said that it had cost $7,000 for just that one outfit alone. Denali then said, quote, if you're somebody that gets casted on that show, and you realise that you're the first of a certain season or a certain series, you're probably going to be favoured a bit. Especially if it's a queen's third time competing, you're going to spend a lot more money. And Mo said, quote, I mean, I did, referring to UK versus the world. And Mo then said, quote, and then they crowned that British bee, and I said, well, it is a British network show, that's fine. And then Caramel said that Mo had a big influence that season, and she mentioned Mo's light runway that she did on UK versus the world, and then after they did that category on All Stars 7, and everyone clapped for Mo. Naysha then spilled some major tea about the final lip sync between Jimbo and Candy, and Denali also said that she had heard this story too. According to Naysha, the lip sync song, which was Do You Wanna Funk by Sylvester and Patrick Cowley, had been decided a long time before the finale episode, and the queens had been preparing for that song. But apparently, when the queens were in the workroom, a producer named Mandy came up to Jimbo and Candy and said that they had decided to change the final lip sync to Milkshake by Khalees. And you may remember that earlier, Naysha had said that that was one of the songs that Jimbo had given for inspiration for her finale performance, so the producers knew that Jimbo would perform that song well. And apparently Candy also knew that Jimbo had given that song to the producers, and so Candy realised that the producers were trying to give Jimbo an advantage in the final lip sync. And then Candy had something in her hand and threw it down and said, quote, call my mother, at the top of her lungs, and Candy said that she was going home, and she told the producers to call her mother to come and pick her up from set. Naysha said, quote, she was going home, F the show, F everybody, you want to crown Jimbo, then you effing crown Jimbo, but you ain't gonna have a finale, F you. And Candy repeated that she was going home and asked production to give her phone back. And all the other queens were in the workroom, but they didn't know what was going on, and Candy then explained what was going on. And apparently Jimbo was just going, quote, what's going on, with a smile on her face, implying that Jimbo was being a bit oblivious to what was happening. But Naysha said that Candy started talking to Naysha in Spanish and called Jimbo, quote, stupid in Spanish, and said that Jimbo definitely did know what was going on, but she was just playing dumb. Caramel then asked how long this lasted between Candy and the producers, and Naysha said, quote, oh, 2 seconds. As soon as Candy popped off, you have to understand, she's saying she's gonna leave, you're no longer gonna have a final episode. Apparently the producer Mandy then came back and said that she was sorry and she, quote, jumped the gun, I made a mistake, and Naysha said Mandy came up with an excuse. And Naysha said, quote, they tried to pull the stunt on Candy, and Candy, the producer, said, quote, no, it ain't happening. And they then changed the lip sync song back to the original song. And Naysha said, quote, kudos for Candy for not letting anyone F with her. Mo then said that she would have done the exact same thing. And Denali then said, quote, at least try and make it look like it's fair. And Denali said, quote, that's not the first time she's done something like that. And it's assumed that by she, Denali was referring to Mandy the producer, but it wasn't made clear. And Denali mentioned Jinx and Detox on season 5. For anyone who doesn't know, I've mentioned this before in other videos, but Detox and Jinx have both confirmed that for their lip sync on season 5, the song was switched at the last minute to Malambo No. 1. And apparently Jinx had been singing that song all season, and the producers knew that she loved that song, and Detox has said that they switched the song to favour Jinx and keep her in the competition. Anyway, Denali also said that she's glad to hear that the queens are standing up for themselves, because without the queens there would be no show. And Denali said that Candy had taught her so much about standing up for herself, and there were so many times on season 13 when Denali didn't stand up for herself and she wishes that she had, but she didn't go into any detail about it. What did you think of All Stars 8? And what has been your favourite moment from the Roscoe's recaps for this season? Let me know in the comments. Also, just in case you haven't seen, I recently launched a new YouTube channel called What the Mat, and it's where I talk about gossip, secrets and drama from other TV shows and movies, not just Drag Race, such as The Real Housewives, Gordon Ramsay's Kitchen Nightmares, and Buffy the Vampire Slayer, just to name a few examples. So please could you all just go and check out my new channel and subscribe, as it would really help me out. I'll put a link in the description. Please make sure you like, comment and share this video, as it really helps support my channel. And of course, please make sure you hit the subscribe button to stay up to date about new uploads. Thanks for watching, and I hope you'll join me again in future videos. Thank you, bye!